Welcome to the BMF stage where I'm interviewing pro wrestler, the artist formerly known as Dash.
Don't start shit if you ain't ready to get hit.
Will allow me to drop some knowledge.
We have to disagree. I saw the Sailor Moon outfit.
just for the just for the intro.
That's
All
right.
right, cool.
What's good, my BMF army? It's your favorite Jedi, the BMF goddess. Hoping that you all doing well. This holiday season approaching. I know it's been like one thing after another, especially if you're living here in New York. But we New York tough. We know how to deal.
Absolutely.
So
Through and
tonight I have
through.
the pleasure because this is actually one of my favorite wrestlers. And, of introducing you to the artist formerly known as Dash. Thanks for being here today. My
Thanks for having
goodness, I
me.
know your schedule is super busy and I like really appreciate it.
Not a problem. I'm glad we've been able to do this. I know we've been working
Uh,
at it for quite some time.
I had to introduce my audience to you. Like I
Yes,
do a
yes.
lot of
Everyone needs to know. Everyone needs to know. We want them
I
all
do
on
a,
board.
absolutely. I do a lot of, interviews, because of the fact that I want to raise more respect and awareness for indie wrestling in general, but I get to choose some of my favorites like you, and I'm just glad you're here.
Likewise.
How has life been treating you lately?
It's been good. I feel like every day is just another step, another blessing. There's a lot of new things that have been happening, a lot of new activity, which I'm happy to, announce and be able to share. A movie that I was able to be a part of, where I actually got to play my first horror debut film. I got to play
That's
play a slasher.
fun.
You can find that on, it's on. Oh my God, one of them is called Rebel. One of the apps is Rebel, and the other one is called Plex. It's called Psycho Night. It's a movie created by David Rodriguez. It's pretty much a hip hop horror kind of spectacle in which the
That sounds
individuals are,
interesting.
yes, they're wrongfully convicted, but then now they're to get their freedom and to get a chance at a record deal in the change of their lifetime, they have to survive this horror game. And I'm one of the slashers that's in there, known as Dread MC, and
Oh,
we're
you're a
chasing them
heel.
around. Oh yes, of course, of course. And yeah, we're chasing them around, and let's see if they survive the night or not. Root for your boy with the dreads.
Could you send me a link later so I can watch it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I haven't even seen the full version of the film myself yet. I'm super excited to do it. Looking to possibly do a watch party at some point in time when I get a chance to do so. But, things like that, a lot of the photography, my cosplay, things that as well has been taking off in the new directions. And I'm just looking to collab and just have more fun and expand on what I've been doing
Yeah.
outside of wrestling along with wrestling. So life has been it's a good feeling to be
Busy.
booked and busy. Yes.
Definitely. Absolutely. I totally agree. So let's go back to the beginning.
Mm.
Where were you born and raised? How was life for you growing up?
Brooklyn, born and raised. Life has always been interesting. It's funny. It was a conversation I had not too long ago where I realized I probably set myself up for all of this from young, manifested from young and didn't even realize it. But as a kid, I was always a little bit more of the odder person out of the groups and things like that. Wasn't completely nerdy or anything like that. I was like the in between of a nerd and like kind of in with
Eccentric.
the cool facts. Yeah, so I was just more eccentric. Got picked on a lot from it. That led me to this having to fight, getting used to being involved in like painful situations and overcoming them and things like that. So it's a lot of challenges growing up. And like I said, Brooklyn born and raised. So I was part of the 80s Brooklyn element. And if you know what that is, you know what it is. I'm not going to get into it too deep, but it was just definitely a very different time. And it was hard to be eccentric and have a good carving space for your own. But luckily, I had good friends, had family, had support systems, and navigated through it. And coming up through school, I wanted to get involved in fighting. I actually wanted to be a mixed martial artist growing up, but it wasn't something that was necessarily presenting itself
Wow.
for me. And
Yeah.
a lot of individuals, because I was such a skinny, frail kid, um, no
Did you
one
get
really
to
was
do
pointing
any
me into
training?
direction. I did get to do some Shotokan when I was young. I did practitioner in Shotokan karate with Sensei Jackie over at it was Richard Green had the collective over at
Uh-huh.
I want to say that was over in the Crown Heights area, and
Yeah.
that's where I grew up at, and that's where I took part in a lot of those things. But as far as like wanting to push my career further with that, there wasn't a lot of support for it. Everyone wanted me to use my brain and things like that, and as much as I used my brains and got my different degrees in college and stuff like that, I still found myself back into entertainment and some level of combat, combat delivered sports or combat entertainment, because that was just always my passion. And it's interesting, like I said, no, even all the naysaying, I wind up right back where I wanted to be in some way, shape, or form.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
That's so cool. Have you ever felt like you wanted to like have a professional fight? Did you
I
get
did.
to? You did?
No, I never wind up having a professional fight. I wind up being lucky enough though that I got to further my practice a little bit as I got older. I got opportunities to spar with individuals that were, legitimately trained MMA fighters and get that experience through them. But by the time I had really kind of thought about it, I looked at the playing field and I was like, at my age and the learning curve that I would have gone against to actually get involved and try to be successful, I was on the other end where there was going to be a bunch of the competition would have just been so immense
Right.
that I'm like, how am I going to survive in this? And then by that time, I already had a child that I'm raising. So I was like, responsibilities. I wasn't able to see myself truly doing both while still supporting a family.
Understandable. Um, I had a question. I forgot it.
Well, don't be
Okay.
nervous now just because I'm here.
I'm just, I'm not even gonna lie. I have a little bit of brain fog because I'm like overworked and overexhausted. But that's all.
Yes.
That's everybody. It's
Yes,
adults.
yes, yes.
Adulthood. Love it.
Adulting. Only a 2-star review.
You're being generous.
Oh yes, yes, I am.
So, why wrestling? How did the pro wrestling bug bite you, and who were your earliest influences?
Wow. The pro wrestling bug bit me young. I was exposed to it through, I had a lot of cousins growing up, and we lived together. I had we lived in an apartment, and it was like the family home. Everybody in the family lived there at some point in time. So I grew up with a lot of my cousins that felt like they were my brothers, older brothers, and they were exposing me to things like wrestling and sports. but they were all wrestling fans. So wrestling was like a family trait. We would sit around Saturday mornings watching wrestling, watching cartoons, the Saturday night main events. We weren't really watching pay-per-views back then, but like when wrestling was on TV on a Saturday,
Yeah.
or we would catch it on a lot of times, I believe it was like Channel 5, Channel 11, or something like that. We were
Yeah.
locked in. Um, and for a while, it was just something cool to watch that I was seeing. Like I was just super interested in it. And I'll never forget, it wound up being one match in particular that stood out. It was British Bulldog versus Shawn Michaels, Saturday Night Main Event Intercontinental title match. And
Good
something
stuff.
about that match just stood out to me. I just thought it was amazing. I'll never forget the finish of British Bulldog going for the back suplex and Shawn Michaels turned it into a crossbody, and that leading to the end of the match. And for me, the I want to say how that match just kind of played out. The story caught me,
Yeah.
and I was like, "Ooh, oh, that was amazing. I want to do that. I want to be able to do that one day." Um, and again, Shawn Michaels is one of those, like, the greatest of all time, and it was one of those big influences on me. Um, Outside of him, Bret Hart, Razor Ramon. I grew up in that early WWF era, so to speak.
Hmm.
And I was very influenced by, again, Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels, Razor Ramon, Diesel. Those were definitely my guys. The Undertaker, Macho Man. I mean, my knowledge of wrestling goes very much from the '80s, well into the '90s, into the current era. So watching all of those guys, I really just more and more got the bug from that match. And it wasn't until I was in my late 20s, going into my 30s, that I was like, I'm tired of just being a fan. I'm tired of saying I want to do it. And that's when I found a pro wrestling school. And from there, the rest was history. It was a beautiful deal that was just set up. It was like an entry deal for like $50. And I was like, huh, $50, try it out for a month. Let's see what I got. I got nothing to lose. And
Right.
some friends of mine had been involved in the independent wrestling scene as well. My first independent show, shout out to 2KW, Just Another Night, was my first independent wrestling show. And that's where I got to meet, a plethora of talents. And I was just
So
like, wait, this is
KW.
accessible. Yes. Yeah.
2KW was on the
The
history.
legendary 2KW. Yes.
Still viable.
Exactly. And it was one of those things where, because I knew the people involved before I actually got to, witness the show, I was just like, oh, this is very accessible. And I was able to just pick the brain of, shout out to my boy, Brandon Lewis, also known as Luis Torres. I picked his ear, picked his brain as much as possible. I was like, how do I get in? And I had to plug me into the setup deal, and I trained with Joel Maximo, and the rest became history. And here we are now.
You were at the Ludus as well?
Yes, I am one of the
Okay.
Ludus
I didn't know
students.
that.
Yeah, yeah.
I didn't know.
It's a hard thing to always shop. There's so much. What's the best word to put it? There's a lot of stigmatisms that go around with that. When
Right. But
just because of pro
that
wrestling and
should
its
be
own drama.
no, that shouldn't apply to you guys.
Exactly, exactly. My talent. I let my talent speak for myself.
Damn right. What are some of your greatest struggles along the way when you first
Oof.
started? Is it safe to say that you wanted to wrestle before the MMA or the other way around?
It was a combination of both. Here's a trivia question that somebody can utilize on me later. I grew up a big fan of Van Damme movies, so the movie Lionheart was like, I was like, okay, wait, this is the life I kind of want. I just want to go around, fight, win money, and have a lavish life outside of that, and then show up and fight. So that became like a blueprint for me. And as I got older, I realized how far from reality that was going to be for me at the time. Plus, again, MMA was not as popular. There was UFC by the time I was of age to like really start participating in stuff, but it was so brutal. There,
Yeah.
it wasn't as organized during that time. And because,
It wasn't even
yeah,
legal here yet.
exactly. You know, there were so many things about it. So even though that was like the blueprint, you know, I just was like, I also want to do wrestling, which will have more pageantry. Because again, for me, there was a point wrestling was real anyway. Like I didn't know there was a difference. I
Yeah.
really bought into it. Once I got smartened up and realized about the work, I was like, huh, okay. And then when I realized that, again, becoming a professional fighter in mixed martial arts, what that would have taken, I was like, okay, I still want this, but maybe I need to take a few steps back and find a way that I can make it meet in the middle. And that's where pro wrestling was definitely there for. So yeah, I had been doing more martial arts before I had gotten to actually train in pro wrestling, and that helped me. But I have to say, you mentioned my biggest struggle. I think mainly the biggest struggle was realizing what it took to be a pro wrestler from things outside of a fighting background. Really unlearning what I knew to be able to perform at a particular level with professional wrestling was an extreme learning curve. I also had a parkour background, so my first day with rolls and things like that, it just didn't make sense to me. They were telling me to do the rolls, and I was doing what I knew to be a roll, what I knew to be bumps and things of that nature, and it was just like everybody was like, "You're moving good, you have it, but you're just doing everything wrong." And I'm like, well, "What am I doing wrong? This is what it's supposed to be." But the pro wrestling way versus the martial arts way, it's similar, but it's also vastly different.
It's different. Yeah.
Yeah, and it just being able to adjust was it was so difficult. It took me about I picked up on things fairly quickly from my trainer's perspective, but there were just those very particular nuances. Like it took months before I could really get my body to get used to moving the way it was supposed to move. So I would say between that and then honestly, image. My image was a big challenge in wrestling. Wrestling's so cosmetic, and I knew that going in. Which is why I wanted to have such an extravagant gimmick to begin with. But when it came to applying that, again, I was a very skinny child, and putting on weight was never the easiest thing for me. I actually envy anybody who actually is like, oh, I get to be whatever pounds, and I'm like, hey, I would dream to be 200 and some odd plus pounds or whichever. Um, and that is a struggle for me. But I definitely had to do the research, learn the systems, consistently in the gym, and I work hard towards that. Probably in the best shape I'm in ever been in my life now. But that itself was its own struggle because, again, as much as pro wrestling is cosmetic and everyone talks about the setups or the what did they say, predeterminedness of wrestling. It is a very athletic and grueling sport, and you have to be an athlete to do it. And, I was athletic originally, but I was not truly an athlete like I am now.
Right. Okay. That's understandable. I actually, if I'm only gonna be honest, but if I'm being honest, there are times that I've gone to indie shows and I've seen like the really scrawny guys, and I'm like, what are they doing? Most of them
They're
are like
trying.
high flyers and shit. But the difference is that when you come out, I don't even think about that because you're everything, your full package throws all that shit away. So you
Indeed.
should know that.
I appreciate that. It's been my goal to make sure whatever I break through the curtain, whatever the expectation is, it simply goes out the window, and there's just the understanding you're about to be entertained. I remember my early matches. I did have a match where I got in there. It's a much bigger guy, and they're looking at me, and they go, he's like 120 pounds, soaking wet, and this guy's 200. There's no way. And but again, I'm competitive, right? So I heard that, And all I could do was look at the guy, and I just, this is my own ego, and I don't. I feel like I tend to be humble, but no, I could turn it on ever so often. But I remember I just hung out the ropes, and I looked dead at him, and I said, "I need you to watch every second." And then we got back in the ring, and by the end of it, he shook my hand and was like, "Oh my God, that okay, I understand. Yeah, I get it. You belong in the
That's
ring."
right.
And so, there is a chip on my shoulder being used to being the underdog or the smaller guy in the ring, to where I go, no, by the end of it, you'll believe me. And if you had something that you thought ahead of time and I didn't do that justice during the entrance, yeah, we'll make up for it in the ring.
Let's say that I'm green and I still don't know pretty much nothing. I'm still training. What
Hmm.
is what is one do and one don't of most importance that you will give me advice wise?
My do would be to tell you stay consistent in training, work often, get involved, stick with the basics, make sure you build your foundation. There
So
is never going to be enough drop down leapfrog, shoulder block, hip toss. There's never going to be enough of making sure your rolls are tight, quarter, tiger, back, flat bump, front bump. All of those foundational things are what you're always constantly building upon. So I would tell someone who's green, stick with that. Get all of that together. The more you get your footwork, the more you get all those things together, everything eventually starts to sprinkle in perfectly. And I would say this
you're the best.
consistently do that. But my
Sorry.
don't would be, no, you're fine. My don't will always be, don't get in your head. Don't think that you need to be perfect right away. Don't put yourself in competition with anyone else beyond yourself in that mirror, because you have to beat you. And once you can realize how much you are in competition with yourself and you start becoming better each day, then you unlock the superstar that you're trying to be.
That is amazing advice. That is definitely needed.
Indeed.
I mean, because heard from people training or, stories that he tells me when he comes from training about, teaching the young guys, so telling them to get out there because it's affecting the way they're doing things. So that's great advice.
Exactly. Many of them just too eager. They want to do everything now, and it's like, take your time. Take your time. And they say
Right,
that
because
every
the
time
business
you're in the
is
ring.
not going anywhere.
It's not even that the business is not going anywhere. When you get too excited, and everyone that's in wrestling, especially when you're starting out, you're super excited and you go so fast. And they tell you in wrestling all the time, every vet will always say, hey, when you think you're going too fast, slow down. When you think you're going too slow, go slower. Because the business it is a slow paced thing. When you see those speed change ups, it means something. We're out there, we're working, we're telling a story. We want people to feel something. We want them to register what happened. The difference in the performance of MMA and movies and wrestling versus, pro wrestling itself is the fact that it's cinematic. We're definitely making this a very cinematic thing. This is every action fight scene, but live and in person, and sometimes without half of the dialogue. So we have to make everything count. And if you rush that, people are not able to get into it, and then you mess up some of your biggest pops. You'll have those moments where it's going on and the crowd is ready to get with you, but that you moved on too quick. They didn't have a time to start celebrating properly, or they were getting ready to clap and have this moment for you, but then you went to the next move and they're like, okay, wait, what's happening next? And you're not playing with that. And I think that's the mistake that I see a lot of the individuals who are starting out, or the main thing that I see individuals just get wrong, period. Like, give that crowd their money's worth by giving them a chance to be involved. You miss that point, and then guess what? You're just the guy who did your match and everything, and now they can't remember. Then now they don't have that moment that they connected with you, with they cheered and they said all these beautiful things that is going to resonate with them later because they had an emotion and then they got to express that and then they got to have a whole process with it. Moved on too quick, and now, oh, guess what, kid? You're
That
the
makes
fifth
a lot
match
of
on the card.
that makes a lot of sense. Thanks for that. Yeah.
Dude.
What are some of your wait? How did your gimmick come about? What's the story there?
Oh, this will be fun. Like I said, being a fan, I used to play the video games a lot, and I always just wanted to had this weird idea of making like my own promotion with the video games, and I had all these different characters, and I came up with several characters of what I would do if I was a wrestler. So there was this gimmick, there was just me as myself, a much more emo character and things of that nature. And what happened was I had them all just in my head. And again, I also like to write. That's one of my things. I do a lot of writing. I make stories and such like that. So I always had everything very fleshed out for these characters. So when it came time for me to bring my own character to light, I looked around and just saw what was happening in the wrestling business overall at the time. And everyone was, Stone Cold Steve Austin or the Joker. And as much as I love Stone Cold Steve Austin, but it was just like, everyone's the same archetype. I was Billy they were Billy Badass, number 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And if they weren't that, I was Mr. Chaos or the angry, sad guy who's just going to beat everybody up, from 9 to 100. And I was like, I will never stick out doing any of these other characters. But I was like, but I can be something that is very true to me, that I love, that I know about, that is going to be more expressive and something that fans can appreciate. And as you can see, I'm a huge Prince fan. Purple is my favorite color. I listen to music more than anything else that I do. Like removing music is as much a part of my life as wrestling in the air. So exactly. So with that, I was
it's
like,
therapy too.
exactly. Again, I am listening to music when I'm driving. I'm listening to music when I'm walking around. I'm listening to music when I'm working. I'm listening to music in any commute. I'm listening to music in the gym. I am almost always listening to music. I play video games half of the time, and I'm listening to something else with my headphones. And the only time I'm probably not listening to music is when I'm performing. Even part of my pre-matches, I got to listen to music for a little bit to just lock into everything. So yeah, it's a sincere part of me. So when I came to do the gimmick, I was like, I needed to be something different, but something that would be authentic and true. And I was like, well, in my head, I just was like, well, what if Prince was a pro wrestler? And it was like, there was concepts of it that were like, had been done before. And I was like, but they wouldn't lean into it the way I did. They're not going to do it the way I'm thinking about it. Because for me, I was like, no, I want every aspect of Prince that made you question your comfortability. And I was, again, Goldust was another influence, and, his gimmick was even inspired by Prince to many degrees. And in knowing that, I was like, yeah, I can put my own spin to that. I can make that a little something different and more modern. And I just leaned into it. And by that time, a lot of people were also familiar with the Dave Chappelle sketch of Prince with the shirts versus the blouses and Charlie Murphy. And I was just like, that is the perfect gimmick. It's just everything is right there in your face. And what better person than someone who already talked so much trash, was flamboyant, was a whole vibe, and just deliver that into a pro wrestling persona. And that's what I did. I cut my first promo. And I do not remember much of anything that I said out of that promo other than if you see that it's raining outside, it's not so much that it's a downpour. Mother Nature happened to see me changing in the shower, so she's just wet. And from there, it was just one of those things where everybody was like, okay, there's something here. And we put a package together, and from the first part of my act, I was wearing suits and blouses. That was the entire aspect of the gimmick, a suit and a blouse. And over time, it just evolved. And as of more current times, it was one of those things where it was like, it's getting lost in translation. I don't need to. I kept trying to give people everything in sprinkles. And what I realized I needed to do was just have everyone open wide and give them the full spoon. And that's what I did from there. So now I made it very apparent, the whole look. Soon as I walk through the curtain, you just are able to connect and go, oh, Prince is here. Okay, I'm going to see Prince wrestle. And like I said before, it was a little bit trying to just be me and have that be a little bit something subtle. Because again, I don't want to get sued. And I didn't want to be too much of a parody, but it was also more beneficial that I just took the Band-Aid off and made it very apparent to everyone. Most people got the vibe, but to make it sincere to where it's like, okay, no, I like this because I also like Prince, and all the comparisons that I've gotten, that was the better decision.
Over the years, I've been able to witness that, and I feel like right now you're at the peak.
Indeed, I agree with you.
All right, so I'm not bringing this up to be messy. I promise you, I'm bringing it up because I know that there are other people who go through this, and they might need a guide from you. I know that your sexuality has been questioned a lot. You have neither confirmed or denied any speculation because you don't have to. But tell me how and why you deal with that, and the way, for other people who go through this, possibly help them as well.
I believe I do it for one is due to the fact that I have the comfortability to do it. I also have the safe space of knowing who I am and the surrounding people around me, that I can kind of escape from how I present myself in wrestling in these certain forums and in private, that I have that security not to worry about it. That gives me an extra coat of armor to do easier for them to have it be seen. However, part of it is just that it's been a part of my actual life for so long as well. I've grown up where many individuals have questioned my sexuality due to me being eccentric, due to the fact that I've been a Toys R Us kid. I never wanted to grow up, and I didn't. And I've been able to be an adult while still keeping that child alive. And it wasn't something that anyone was always able to understand, and it got challenged often. So all of those misconceptions, I just at a point decided I don't need to explain myself unless you're going to truly be involved. And that was a security for me, and I want to see that in others. So I felt in many ways I have to lead by example. The only way that could become more normalized is by showcasing it in a way that, it makes others question themselves through me, while still knowing that they're safe around me, or they don't have to feel as intimidated by me. And as much as it's, there are times that it can be just like, oh, okay, really? Wow, that's a little bit insane. But it allows me to feel like those individuals will expose themselves, and I can treat them accordingly. But then upon treating them accordingly, others can see it and know that, okay, wait, maybe this is not such a bad thing, but that person can't handle it themselves, and look at it that way. And again, my mindset has always been just challenge the framework of what's conventional, so that it becomes more acceptable to look at individuals who are not conventional and still see that how normal that really is. Because if we're all, there's billions of people on this earth, we're all experiencing life, we're all having it in a very unique way, and we're all individuals, we're all still human. As we go through that, yes, we're going to have our comforts, but there's a way you can address that. There's a way you can deal with it, and it doesn't have to be so harmful to everyone else. And if you're too comfortable just being one side or one particular way, guess what? You're going to get challenged about that. You can have your core values, but it doesn't mean you have to shut somebody else's life down.
That takes a lot of strength.
Yeah, I'm just stubborn.
Couldn't have been easy.
It's not. Like I said, I'm stubborn. I don't mind chaos. Sometimes it's just fun to me. Yeah, again, I'm very reserved, but for everyone who does know me, they know that like I'm a big prankster. You never know what to expect out of me, just due to the fact that I'm going to find a way to have something that's going to be fun to me. And I might not wait for the approval, but it's just going to be something that you'll look and again, like I don't have the ego where I'm afraid to make fun of myself. Like I'm going to laugh at myself while others are laughing with me. And I feel that that's the other thing. Like again, having a good sense of humor allows me to be very flexible in those kind of things as well.
I was actually one of the popular kids, and I used to always hang out with people like yourself, and people that my friends used to question, why do you hang out with them? And I used to say, because they're fun people, they're good people, and even though they didn't want to be friends, I had a lot of people. A lot of my friends are on the spectrum.
Hmm.
I've always clinged to different. I'm different. Uh, so
And isn't it more
I
fun?
I commend you on that a lot
Thank you.
because
But I
it's
was gonna say,
not.
like, isn't it more
Yeah,
fun though? Like, isn't it like that conventional inside the box? We only do this. We only go here. That gets
totally.
boring. Like I know if I know what to expect every single time, why am I gonna be excited about something new?
Right. Santana Jackson. For those that don't know, Santana Jackson is he has a Las Vegas residency as a Michael Jackson impersonator, and he's also a pro wrestler. I actually interviewed him a couple of years ago. Really cool guy. You guys are about to have match number 3. It is
Yes, it's
together.
match number 3. Mm-hmm.
I First of all, I'm jealous because I didn't get to see the first two. I mean, I watched it, but I didn't. I want to be in person, so I'm hoping that it happens again somewhere where I can travel to. But amazing, I love it. It's freaking awesome. How did this come about, and how has it been working with him?
Santana. At this point, he's might as well just be my greatest rival, probably the bane of my existence, but we won't get into that too much. I'll say this. If you're going to have your yin, you need your yang. If you're going to make it in this business, you need a great dance partner. And if I'm Prince and he's MJ, which at this point in wrestling, he is wrestling's MJ, and at this point, I am wrestling's version of Prince. But if I am going to do the honor of representing these two icons of music and the fan base that they have, it was always talked about Prince versus MJ, who was the better artist. That argument has
Yeah.
gone spawned its own legacy. There would have been no way for us to coexist without having a clash at some point. And I
Seriously.
saw that early.
For
From the moment
years,
I
I was
saw,
like,
and that's the thing. So, like again, fans like yourself, people that had mentioned it, from the moment I saw the moonwalk DDT, which I didn't even find it on my own. Several people, other wrestlers, had sent it to me and was like, "You got to fight him. Like, there's no way Michael Jackson is gonna run around and Prince doesn't have anything to say about it. Like, you guys are destined to do this." And they were 100% correct. And it didn't take anyone having to sell me on it. Like I said, as soon as that first video was sent, I saw that moonwalk DDT, and I was like, oh, okay. I see the person that at some point we will have to have a match. And I had put it out and I manifested it for about 3 years prior to it actually happened. And a lot of other people had been asking about it. There was just one of those things where if you were in the business and you knew about both of us, it was something that was just demanded and people wanted to see. And luckily enough, we had the promoter that wanted to put it on. And again, hats off to my original trainer, Joel, for seeing that vision and wanting to take the risk to make sure it happened. And we made it happen, and it was magical ever since. And now I believe, as amazing it is to work with Santana Jackson, um, I think we're going to wind up doing this thing forever. This seems like something that we will be
You
going
guys
back
are
and forth
money.
on. It's something that a lot of people enjoy. There is a magic when we're in that ring together. He's a pain in the ass to me. He's great to everyone else, and in personal world, he's probably a very lovely individual. But for me, a little bit of a pain in the ass because he is thoroughly on his game, and he's all Michael Jackson, and I am all Prince. And I don't think we will see eye to eye on certain things, but we will not see eye to eye on who is the best in that realm. And I think that's where the rivalry is going to always live between us.
You bringing it. Uh, that's it's great. I'm marking out. Let me stop.
As you should. Even though Michael Jackson, I'll say it again, he was only a singer, not a musician. He was a performer, not a full-fledged artist. He didn't play every instrument on his album and didn't cut the lyrics to it and didn't hire a band to play with him. No, no, no. He had a whole machine behind him of a producer and worked with some of the greatest artists to produce hits. So, that's just my 2 cents about it, though. I'm just happy to put it out there. That's all.
You hear that, Santana?
He knows
Well,
it.
when he watches this.
This is why we'll be fighting in a cage
Yeah.
December 13th.
Oh my God, I can't wait to see that. That's awesome. All right, so I ask every talent that I interview this just out of plain curiosity. If you were to get a call from a mainstream company, who would you want it to be and why?
Hmm. So I've thought about this a lot, and I don't. I did really, in a way, I don't want to ever limit myself in a particular box, but I look at the crop of talent that they have on their roster and who I would love to work with. And as of right now, that would be AEW. And just because there's a lot of the individuals that I watched growing up that are
Mm,
still performing under that banner, and they're performing at such a high level that I would love to share the ring with them, learn from them, and see what magic we would be able to bring to the table in that space. Um, as far as the land of opportunity as well for how AEW operates and still letting talents, what they did in the independents translates directly on screen. I also enjoy that as well. But that is not to say that if WWE called that I will hesitate at all to say I'm getting on the plane right now. But it is one of those things where they're my dream matches, and
yeah,
there's a bunch of them, but there are definitely several dream matches that are with individuals who are currently on the AEW roster right now. So
that,
that would be the only kind of a situation where I'd be, hey, if I can make that happen.
right.
But if with WWE, there's an immense talent pool there as well. Um, but they're not all the individuals that I watched growing up as much as they're individuals that I would love to just share the ring with that
Right.
I have grown to have a respect from just seeing their work directly as well.
Gotcha. What are some of the biggest, or you can name one of each if you want, a pro and a con of in the wrestling business in your eyes?
Hmm. The beautiful thing about the wrestling business, I believe, is everything that you can put into it can really manifest itself into a very particular once in a lifetime experience. Wrestling has given
Pretty
me
much
so
whatever you put in comes out.
exactly. But then again, I say that with a grain of salt because this is an entertainment field. And with entertainment, you could sometimes apply yourself and then you have to wait to still be picked. You have to just find a way to make yourself stand out so that you do get picked. But once you are picked, the possibilities just become endless. However, it still becomes very much proponent of yourself to just put yourself out there that way so that that can happen. You know, you have to make yourself a complete package. You have to give yourself the right gimmick. You have to know how to sell yourself. You have to learn things like marketing. When I do career days, I'm always telling the kids, I'm like, if it wasn't for my college degrees and education and all the things that I've learned with real world experience, I would have never been able to navigate this business at all because a lot of it was the things that I learned outside of a pro wrestling school that
Yeah.
helped me become successful. Um, because the con in this is that if you're not picked, if you're not really able to work at those things, there's not a lot of money that you're definitely going to get to be successful in this
Mm-hmm.
business. You got to know marketing. You have to know entrepreneurship. You have to know business. You have to know branding. And that's not something that easily gets taught to everyone. And that's not something that even trainers in wrestling schools are always even able to educate you on. It's one of those things that you have to research, you have to learn about, you have to take some outside classes. You know, you have to expand upon so many different things, even just the idea of acting, so that you can deliver a line better in a promo, so that you can know how to react with your body to have the awareness of what a sell is going to be, what's appropriate for the sell, and how that will resonate. Or just even crowd interaction and comfort with public speaking. All of those things, you know, are these vast amount of very specifics that I was in intangibles that I was able to bring to the table before I even stepped into a ring. And those are the things that I think have been allowed me to set myself apart from other wrestlers that have just done the wrestling and they're working the character stuff out later on. Um, and I think the con with that is that sometimes the individuals that are there on the other side of the gate, the gatekeepers, and when I say the gatekeepers, I mean those who are doing the hiring, those who are putting the shows together, they may not always see the vision. They may not always be able to appreciate what's being brought to the table, the vastness of what that is, and what that goes through. You know, you look at the discourse online between when a wrestler speaks out about a particular promotion or promoters and things like that, there's always a disconnect between the two. And both are 9 times out of 10 right. It's just two different perspectives and finding a way to make it meet in the middle. That becomes very difficult. So I feel the con is finding the best way to always make it meet in the middle for yourself, because that in itself is its own gambit. And without leveraging things in your favor, if you don't get that teaching, you won't really know it. If you don't have that experience or someone pull your coat to tell you about it, it's going to blindside you. And I think that's why you have a lot of disgruntled wrestlers that have been amazing talents and done such great things, but you're wondering, well, why weren't you the star? Or why aren't you this particular guy? And it's like, well, the sad part is sometimes you can be the most amazing talent, but you just weren't booked. And it's not even your fault. It's just sometimes it wasn't the timing wasn't right. But you know, I go back and I look at a lot of the independent wrestler tapes from Ring of Honor the Urban Wrestling Federation, um, early ICW. A lot of these companies, they had the most amazing talent rosters that we never seen on mainstream TV. Human Tornado, who I specifically and pay homage to in my match because it was stuff that he was doing with his character that I think needs to stay alive today. Like he's one of those legendary kind of performers that was doing something different and someone that I looked up to from the independent scene where I was like, yeah, that's one of those guys because he broke a lot of boundaries for the smaller guys and was such an entertaining character that you believed what he did and you wanted to see him win and why he was so successful. And that carried on to me. And I was like, yeah, I have to pay homage to that some way or another. So yes, and Human Tornado, if you see this and you're watching, thank you. Thank you again. And I know you're going to continue to curse me out for doing your gas gimmick in the corner, but in many ways, you're my wrestling dad, and you just don't know it. So deal with it.
All right. You mentioned this briefly, but last but not least, shoe promo. What separates you from everybody else?
What separates me from everyone else, again, one, I'm a tribute artist, and I believe I'm a one of a kind tribute artist. I am like many other wrestlers, but a select few. I'm going to make sure there is a direct connection with the fans. They're going to see something that's going to be memorable. They're going to have something that's going to feel tangible from the moment I break to the curtain to the moment that I walk out. And that's going to resonate with them, and that's going to lead to them wanting to see me. I believe from all my matches and everything that I've done, I gain such a fan base from each performance because I am able to make that connection. And it's the combination of things from moves, what I might say, my antics, being able to have fun out there, being able to just give the crowd exactly what they want, also provide such a nostalgia act for all the tributes that I'm trying to pay tribute to as I carry these things with me, to just make sure that like you felt that you were entertained. A lot of our wrestlers, especially on indie scene, are very heavily involved in wanting to make sure this feels real to everyone. Um, I believe in the realism, but I rather just make you feel. I want you to just have something where you went to a show and for that time that you were there, you got your money's worth and you didn't think about anything else but what was happening in that moment. I want to be the one or the reason that you didn't pick up your phone during a match because you were just glued to what was happening. And for that moment, it was very intimate. It was just you and I. And I think because that is exactly what I seek to deliver every single time, I think that's what sets me apart. I'm very intentional in trying to make what happens that night during that performance an intimate experience between myself, the fans, and my partner in the ring.
I fuck with it. um, do you have any merch that you could plug us into?
Of course. Like I said, I am an artist. I am currently selling t-shirts through Pro Wrestling Tees, so you can find that on www.prowrestlingtees.com/dash
Do you
D1000.
have the links in your bio?
I have. I will send all the links so that we can have them posted and put up. Because I have 3 different shops, so that there is variety. I am also one of the shops I'm in the process of updating. Then we have the roses that, but those are exclusive. You can only get that in person. So if you have been lucky enough to have a rose, know that you only are able to get those in person. They're not available online or anywhere else. The autographed pictures, and tons of merch. I'll definitely show up the links because again, from
Yeah.
t-shirts, sweatpants, hoodies, outfits, I really wanted to make sure that there was a vast amount of things because again, when I thought about
Choose
making my
from.
own merch, yeah, when I thought about making my merch, I was like, I don't want another black T-shirt with a wrestling logo.
Right.
And I
Period.
also wanted, and I wanted to start making things that I was like, I would want to wear this and not have anybody really even know it's probably connected with wrestling. So, a lot of my designs they're a little tongue in cheek. Some of them, they're a good play on words and stuff, but it's something that it's subtle enough that a wrestling fan will recognize it as a wrestling T-shirt. But if you're not aware of the character in the product, you're not going to know it's a wrestling T-shirt at all. You'll just be like, "Oh wait, that's a T-shirt that says something
It's
clever,
still a
or
cool
that's a nice
shirt.
little image."
Yeah,
Exactly.
that's smart.
So that was always my thought process. And then I thought outside the box too. I was like, have a mug, have something else, have all the different things that you would have as in your everyday life, but it will just give you a representation of me. One of my favorites, my pillow.
Oh, what does it say?
So the front is my original catchphrase, they all want the D.
Okay.
And
No.
the previous one, which was dare to be dashing. But it's reversible so that you get
Yeah,
both on
that's
whichever side
fire.
you feel comfortable about. So like this is again one of my favorites that I was able to make, and these are available through the Teespring shop for those who want it.
That's dope.
And yeah, there's plenty of more coming. So by all means, check out the shops, buy something, support. We love the love.
This has been a pleasure. Thank you so much
Always.
again for being here. And I wish you nothing but success, more success. Keep doing
Thank
what you're
you.
doing. And
Likewise.
we thank you for
No,
the
thank you.
entertainment.
Thank
All
you.
right,
Thank
then,
you.
guys. You already know. Subscribe to BMF Goddess. I'm gonna add Dash's information as well, so you guys can follow him on everything. Have a good night, and may the force be with you.
Ooh, yes. The purple force though.